from Dallas, Texas. We have with us Rameshwar Balanagu, who is the head of digital automation enterprise architecture at AVAYA. So Rameshwar is the head of digital automation at AVAYA. He's an international speaker and blogger on digital transformation, enterprise architecture, and automation. He has partnered with the likes of CTO Academy to launch the next generation enterprise podcast to groom future leaders. He runs the third largest automation meetup group in the United States, known as DFWRPA, which runs on the second Wednesday of every month and covers a wide range of topics dealing from quantum to cybersecurity. He's an advisor at various startups focused on blockchain and esports. Rameshwar, what a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with our global audience today.
Thank you, Jose. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you, and always love your passion and your commitment for the audience with everything that you do. Thank you for having me here today. So, are we good, Jose?
Yeah, you're good. You can go ahead and share your slides, share your presentation, and go and carry on. Yeah, looks good.
You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, looks good.
All right. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in which part of the world. I hope you're all staying safe, and don't forget to take your vaccination. So I am a big morbid fan of Star Trek, and as a kid, I've always followed the next generation enterprise spaceship. This is in respect or how I view the next generation enterprise has to be. We all want to be that. The Uber, Airbnbs, but the reality is we're not like spaceship. But there's nothing wrong in stopping and dreaming from us. So, over the next 3 days, you'll be getting a lot of great lessons from a lot of experienced people on how process intelligence is fueling digital transformation. What I decided is how should our future enterprise be, and how process intelligence can be the a key critical component of your next generation enterprise. So join me on this journey, and I hope the ride is kind of bumpy but fun. So let's get on to the spaceship. So basically, if you have seen in the past, as we evolved from analog to the digital, transition to the technology was slow and gradual. And then once we moved to the digital, come to the iPhone era, things slowly gradually changing. So the Gen Z, or basically I would say what we were, the Gen X, we saw a transition from the analog to the digital, but from the digital, we saw to the iPhones. And come post iPhone era, especially in the 2000s, we had this Web 2.0 or Internet 2.0, where we had the media based, like the Facebooks and all. Rapidly in this last 3 years, Gen Z and Gen Y have been actually accelerating like never before. So what has happened is, thanks to the cloud, thanks to the drop in the the computers, the CPU, things have become radically been accelerating. We are talking of 5G. Think of how 5G is there. If you have gone and attended Microsoft Ignite, you've seen the Microsoft Mesh. So VR, AR, which were a myth, are now becoming a reality. And quantum is taking unprecedented turns. I think, they said that quantum will come 10 years later, but it's actually coming much. So what is happening is, with this rapid change, technology is moving faster than us. And maybe, the era of, how many of you follow Elon Musk and Mark Cuban? He is talking of Neuralink, where connecting our brain to the actual physical devices. So this is a shift that is happening, but at the same time, companies that are augmenting or looking into this tectonic shift are moving faster. The perfect example, versus the companies that are not moving. What did it mean is, the traditional business model that we used to have of how a business used to get a requirement, send it to the IT, how IT used to send. It's creating a big shift or a gap between the strategy. Things are no longer the same. Everybody wants a digital experience. People are moving to less and less from the physical to the digital. So the whole strategy of what should be our goal, how should we evolve, and how fast we evolve, and what kind of systems are required. So this is actually a gap that is being created more and more. And if you have followed Gartner, Gartner said adopt buy model, which is basically accelerate your front end and evolve gradually like your hair in turtle. But that actually created a gap. So in that gap, we created to plug that gap, we created RPA. We said APIs were great, but APIs are taking time. But the gap still persisted. So what we have seen is, and actually by virtue of being friends with the Gen Z and the Gen Y, what I've seen is, and no better explanation than GameStop. If you see GameStop, everybody would have seen on the news what happened to the stock market and what happened to the GameStop. Nobody can explain. But when I talk to my 12-year-old kid and when I talk to his friends, they were always pounding on us saying, buy GameStop. Why? Because GameStop caters to their experience. This is a big eye opener for me on how the next generation enterprise has to be. The Gen Z, I don't know how many of you have kids in the Gen Z and the Gen Y. They want completely digital. They hate physical. They hate cash. They love crypto. They like to talk on Discord. We love to talk on Slack. We love to talk on Facebook. These kids, even I don't know how many of you have followed Discord. It's black monochrome, but they love that experience. With a single click, they want this. All this means what? Enterprises that exist and are evolving have looked at what the pull is, not the push is. If we want to be the next generation enterprise and if we have to survive, we have to start thinking of what the Gen Z is asking for, what the Gen Z is looking for. The Gen Z is actually looking for, they believe in an influencer community. So if they love Lucas, I'm a Mavericks fan. If they love Lucas, they will do everything that Lucas wants, not I and you provide the product. So there's actually a pull and a push occurring at the same time. We were traditionally used to the push method, but now it's a pull and a push. We have to adopt in a way that sustains to the Gen Z model. Now, why am I talking all of this? Because if you are the next generation enterprise, remember the spaceship that I kind of showed you? If you want to evolve, you have to look to what the industry or what the trends are. If GameStop is any inclination as a hint of what is happening, Gen Z is telling you, hey, look to us. If you don't look to us, your enterprise, even though you may have the best technology, if you don't provide what we want, you're not there. This is what the next generation enterprise is. The next generation enterprise is a combination of technologies, but providing an experience the, that is seamless, that they can experience across. So why with that, I'm slightly changing a little bit to the platform strategy. Now, this a little bit, I'm going to talk of how the future of the enterprises have to be. I don't know how many of you heard of this platform strategy, but the platform strategy is, like I said, it's an open platform where there is a pull and a push, or probably a push and a pull. So at every stage, the consumers and the producers are working together on a platform to provide continuous value exchange. This is the classic example of what a platform is. Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, Google, even Apple, this one. The whole goal of the platform is provide the best of the experience with a value and at a cost that is increasingly going lower and lower. So when people talk about platform, what they think is what is happening to a traditional model. If you see the traditional business model to the left and to the right, if you see, we had a producer and the end was consumer, but there were two layers. Now, in this new generation model or the next generation model, we will cut the middle tier. The platform will provide an ecosystem for the developers and for the publishers, or what, the buyers and the sellers to participate together. The buyers can be in a position to challenge and ask for more. The sellers could be in a position to expand the portfolio. So by cutting down the middle layer, the value creation is continuous. It's no longer like, we have the things of design thinking. Why design thinking is gaining more traction is, you want to understand what the user wants, not what you want. So that's why I've been telling, it's no longer the pull. No longer push, but it's a pull. Why are we looking at this? This, like I said in the back, is this is how the next generation enterprise has to be. Not everybody company can be a platform or Airbnb or the Facebook, but if you don't start thinking from a platform driven model, the economies or this value driven model, many companies will survive. And GameStop was, I'll tell multiple times, GameStop is a hard way of how the Gen Z is telling us, you better look to us. This is the economy. You will be in a crypto economy, which you don't get it, but if you don't evolve, you're going to perish. So with that, basically, the platform strategy itself is more than an R1. But in the benefit of the time, I thought the best example is Uber is, what I call, they use a platform strategy and next generation enterprise. If you see, the concept is very simple. Basically, they have more drivers available, the faster the pickup. So once they did this pickup, they were able to add prices or lower the prices. And now that they could do it because the app was available on the phone, more people could consume. Then they started gradually expanding to the geography. So more drivers, more people, single tap on the phone, less downtime, reduced. If you were initially, if you remember the days, I don't know how many of you were, driving from an airport on a cab to the home. It used to be $40 to $60. Now with Uber, it's $20 to $25. You don't like it, you cancel it. So this is an experience and a value that I'm getting continuously. This is where industry is going. So now that we talked of what a next generation enterprise is, we'll go back to what it means to be a next generation enterprise. So this is a technology. So basically, it's the ecosystem of how the partners and the customers and even the employees can create value all across. It's a continuous loop where all the technologies, it's just not process mining. AI is a key part of the next generation enterprise, but AI is only good. AI is like a black box. The problem with AI is it's a black box. Explainable AI is coming, but until you apply process mining, you don't understand why it's an anomaly or why it isn't an anomaly. So this is in a nutshell the technology, but the key thing what I want to talk about is as an enterprise architect or any company, you want to focus on what is your business capabilities. Why do you need business capabilities? The capabilities give you a twofold strong idea. In order to be the next generation enterprise or in order to support the future, you need to understand current capabilities. Only then you can offer new capabilities. If you offer new capabilities, let's say you go completely like a platform. I've heard many companies or many times, especially in the digital transformation, when people talk of an ERP upgrade, they say, we are upgrading and there is no need to look at the process because we're doing greenfield. The reality is you may build a brand new ERP and there's no need for you to look at your existing business capability. But once you turn that on, you have your system of records, you have your data warehousing, or you have your 10K, 10Q, what you have to report. They're not upgraded. So if you don't understand your existing business capabilities, adding a new business capability and without integrating them is only creating chaos or confusion. System of records becomes a system of confusion. So for any company to start with, when you are talking, business capabilities and value chains are key. That is a must that you need to look at. So this is how we at Avaya do from a value chain and capabilities. But if you've seen here, that's at high level or value chain, and below these value chain, like let's take the finance or the enterprise support, what kind of capabilities each line of business offers. So by looking at this capabilities and then mapping the technologies and the process, you can say how ready are you or how capable are you. So capabilities by themselves are static in nature. They don't go frequent changes like processes. But the gap or the bridge between, so capabilities is called strategy and the process is more like an execution. Until you have a real-time alignment between the capability and the process, you're not really sure how capable you are of. So we used to do this in the traditional way using what? BPM. So, BPM has been there for the last 30, 40 years. But BPM is like nothing different from data governance. Everybody likes to talk about governance, but the reality is it's expensive, it takes time, and what? People kind of ditch it. So, the whole thing of BPM is not about diagrams and architecture. It's improving business. It's giving customer satisfaction, reducing your mean time to resolution. It is a great, great philosophy. But when it come to implementation, what happened was, like if you see here to the left is BPM, which is strategic in nature, top down. It aligns with the capabilities that I just mentioned. But The tools have made it very, very expensive. The time it takes to do a process identification and discovery, no need to explain on that. It takes time forever. So what happened was BPM, which was projected from a philosophically that it provides a great value, became a tool being dusting on the shelves, and many companies have started using Visio. Is Visio good? Yes, but does it have the entire BPM flow? Maybe, may not be, but that's debatable. Over the last 10 years, a new child came, what we call as process intelligence. You'll be hearing many things. The key tenets of what process intelligence is three attributes. What we call as what we call them events as case ID, activity name, and timestamp. I'll not delve into too much into that, but the beauty of that is process intelligence or the history actually came from the Netherlands professor, and I would recommend everybody, if you haven't followed him, Van der Elas, to probably look at his courses in Coursera or what have you. What he has done, and again from the Australian professor, Marlos Dumas, they have fundamentally taken this event or this lineage and shown how the processes are working. So it did pick up, but it was the automation or RPA, thankfully or forbidden, kind of gave glamour to the industry. So what process intelligence did is it took the processes bottom up and quickly did the process discovery and helped build the BPM. So by going tactical in nature and quickly building the process maps, which were taking forever, business can now start talking. Then slowly what happened is people hijacked and thought process intelligence is for RPA. And that's what you will be hearing. But what people misunderstand is process intelligence is a key tenet of actually process discovery, which is part of BPM. The way process intelligence does is using technology, but philosophically it ties to BPM. So when people say process intelligence accelerates automation, I ask them to step back and say process intelligence, you'd hear the word continuously from people as process mining or process intelligence. Process mining, when combined with AI, becomes process intelligence, but it's a very loosely used word. A process intelligence, with the help of technology, accelerated this. You would have also heard something of task mining. So my request to everyone is process intelligence is not for automation. Process intelligence is for understanding your process. It could mean actually even a process re-engineering. By looking at the process, you want to know, is it in conformance? If it's not in conformance, what do you do to improve that? Maybe you may not need an automation. There's an industry buzzword called business process re-engineering, which we kind of discarded. So basically, why did this process change? Because people process technology changed over the last 20 years. So by looking at this process, by not being in conformance, we can step back and say, you know what, we have to re-engineer the process. So long story short, process intelligence is a subset or a child of BPM, and I believe at some point in the future, process intelligence will be absorbed into BPM. So now, connecting the dots, we talked of value chain, we talked of business capabilities, we talked of BPM, process intelligence. Until you really connect these dots, I kind of made it like an eggshell. Until you connect, you really are not doing a true digital transformation. You connect the process intelligence at a lower layer, like you can go to a finance, you can go to supply chain, or you can go to the revenue management. But then soon, how does it tie it back to the capability? And remember, I said if you want to be the next generation enterprise, evolve as the digital transformation needs. Or if the Gen Z or Gen Y says, hey, I need this kind of an experience. In order to get a real time, the only way is your business capabilities, your process maps, and process intelligence have to integrate. So this way, it takes time. Remember, Rome was not built in one day. It takes time. The same thing, you start from an enterprise architect. Enterprise architects, all they do is focus on value chain and business capabilities. But then the BPM architects may or may not report to enterprise architects. They could be part of solution architects. And process intelligence, for good unknown reasons, part of automation COE. I have been recommending from an EA is from both the EA and the automation COE should work hand in hand. That way, there is a real-time integration between the business capabilities and process intelligence, and then you evolve. So this is again an evolving industry, but I hope this does happen. So now that we've understood the basic of what a value chain, a business capability and process intelligence, let's dwell a little bit into the tenets of process intelligence. This is a one slide. It's pretty busy, but I'll try to provide as many examples. I'm not going to. I promise I'll not make it techy. So the core tenets of process intelligence is transparency, agility, compliance, efficiency, quality. So the first thing, if you all remember BPM cycle, after process identification, the next step in process identification, process discovery. Many of us who are old, like me, who are lost hair, we would have interviewed our business stakeholders, written down on a piece of spreadsheet, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, these are the process, these are this one. Thanks to technology, the first thing what it does is it immediately builds the process lineage and shows you the process discovery. Basically, it is showing you as is. Like one of the things, like one of my management asked me, Ramesh, I don't get process intelligence. Can you put it in a simple way? So what I did is I took this example. You can Google it. A cat and the lion example. When we start an enterprise, we think we built a cat, but over the due course of time, the classic example of ERP is we've customized so much, and people have changed, and technology has changed. The cat became a lion. The process has become so much spaghetti, and we don't even know. So the original process which we designed in BPM is no longer relevant. Neither, it could be for various reasons. What do you call compliance changed it, technology changed it, rules and regulations changed it. The thing is, so much has changed, and then nobody keeps up with the documentation. The first thing what happens is it does an automated process discovery. Then agility. So this is the beauty in what I've seen in process intelligence and what's evolving is currently there's a lot of whether you take any of the leading vendors, Celonis, Signavio, any of them, they provide variant analysis. And when I mean variant analysis, it is like if I were to compare how does my process work with a geography like Australia? How are we both doing from, let's say, a dropship order? The dropship order in US is taking 2 days. For a very similar in Australia, it's taking a half day or 4 days. So by doing a variant analysis, you can see what is happening. Or even if I'm in US, what happened to the same order, the same customer between yesterday and today? Maybe sorry, was it there's some background noise? Okay. So basically the variant analysis kind of helps you in understanding what is the variation. Why did the same customer, the same order last month to this month differ? Maybe I live in Dallas. So last month, we had the most unfortunate weather. So suddenly the orders got stuck. So this is an example of how a variant analysis is. I'll talk a little bit as well about causal process mining. The classic example and causal process mining is derived from AI. Sunglasses and what do you call a soda or not a soda, a cool coconut or whatever what you take. There's no relation between them. But when you slap the variable of sun, you then understand because it's hot and sunny outside, we need sunglasses and we need our coconut water. So this, when we apply the same to process mining, we get a picture. Why? So when we take this example, like when we took this example of comparing a dropship order in US versus Australia, why it's very similar, but what caused it? Maybe in the case of Australia, I'm just making this example, the fuel costs are low. So because of that, they have more number of trucks. So they are able to do LTL or less than a truckload and deliver the orders faster. In the case of US, we use a full truckload. So we are waiting because even though it's very similar, it's a dropship order, we are waiting for the truck to be fully loaded. So when you start adding multiple variables, you get a cause and effect. This is actually coming into the industry. Then the next thing is, Jose, please do let me know if I'm running on time. What we have is multidimensional modeling. If you guys have been in the data warehousing industry, what we call as OLAP cubes. Basically, it's a cube, like how we all play cubes. The cube, the benefit of cube is you can do multi-dimensional, meaning you can do a dimension by time, you can do by location, you can do by skew. Why is this coming? This multidimensional model I've not seen still in the industry, but it's coming. When you take the example of let's say, we have an order. Today, process mining is linear in the nature. Remember, we talked of the three core attributes, basically, which is, the timestamp, activity name, and the ID. When you start stitching it from system to system, it tells you the order got stuck in CRM because of, basically there was a code. But when you do a multidimensional modeling, let's say you have one SKU that has 10 items. Some of the items might have volume, length, a volume problem. So what should have happened is, because of that, you had to make a separate SKU. So when you do a multidimensional, you can actually understand not just order, but you can break it down to the SKU and look at by time and dimension. You know why? My order couldn't come at the right time because we had a SKU that was not able to fit into this truck, and therefore they had to kind of put it into a separate truck, or for some reason this is coming. This is something evolving. So as you see, process mining, which started with the linear, which was core focused on process mining, started borrowing the leaf of from AI and started becoming much more intelligent. That's why if you see in my slides, I try to consistently use process intelligence. Now, predictive and prescriptive. So in a set of sequence of activities, what is happening is, if the events have occurred regularly, process mining or predictive mining AI is kind of learning what is the most probability that event will happen, or when likely is this order going to get booked. So what happens is, today, if you see, when you talk to the AI guys, you ask them to forecast or predict. If you've done the time series forecasting, or nothing wrong, and that's correct. So the example that I gave is, if you have done an anomaly detection, let's say from an expense management, AI will actually tell you that, there's been a deviation. So basically, let's say I am allowed $100 and I spent $400. AI will instantly tell you that there's an anomaly, there's something wrong, and this customer or me as a person, I'm likely to violate again and again. But when I apply the combination of process mining and AI, what happens is, and this is a live example I'm talking, and when is I had to fly to California 2 years back, and my MX tickets, for some reason, unfortunate reason, got cancelled. I was not even informed. So when I checked out at the hotel, they said, "You're sorry." So I had to call MX and instantly book it. Now, because I booked it, what happened is, my hotel registration got charged, and then everything started compiling, and my bill started getting higher. So I called MX and said, "Hey, you know what? I have a problem. You cancel for no reason, and you flag me as anomaly, because if you don't pay as an employee in 30 days, MX flags me as an anomaly." When I called them and I said, "Due to the bad weather, you canceled and you didn't," they said, "We are sorry." But to get a customer support, it took me 3 months because the weather was bad. So I got fed up. I didn't call them. And when they called me, every now and then, they started slapping charges. So to get this resolution, it took me 1.5 years. If you take this example of purely AI, am an anomaly? Yes. But when you take this predictive process mining, where by looking at the flow of events that I call them, my tickets got cancelled, and then they will understand that this guy was not cancelled. So this is what is a classic example of predictive mining is, by looking at the customer, it is predicting that for so and so reason that this customer would likely to pay or not to pay. So prescriptive mining, again, basically based on what the next likely action is, it is going to recommend what is the best course of action. Maybe let's say the order is, the order is taking, based on the predictive mining, it is saying whatever reason it could take 10 days. So the prescriptive mining, today what we do is, if there's an SLA violation, we kick off the bots to fulfill an order, which I'm sure you would be doing. The prescriptive mining, on the other hand, would give you saying, perhaps in order to close this order, do these activities. This activities could actually mean an integration with an API or a bot. That is where it is going. So there's all these tenets in the, why are we integrating more and more with AI? I see process mining becoming, process mining has used a lot of technology, but with the combination of AI, process mining becomes much more powerful. Or when process mining even becomes part of BPM, process intelligence and AI, when combined, the power of take the classic case of dynamic case management. Everything is variance. And when you use predictive and prescriptive mining, you understand the customer a lot better. So a little bit more about transfer learning. Transfer learning is actually a model of predictive mining, but these are pre-trained models. What it does is instead of the benefit of transfer learning is it is learned at the expense like the Googles and the Facebooks. We take the model and implement it because it is already pre-trained. The time it takes to learn a new variance doesn't take much time. So in the case of predictive mining, it has to continuously be fed data. And if there is data, like suddenly something is there, let's say completely a violation of this, it takes time for the model to learn, and then it needs data. With the transfer learning, because it's trained across on different geos, different kind of verticals, even though it may not have the best, when it encounters a new use case, looking at its knowledge, which has acquired across the business verticals, it can quickly learn. This is being used separately, but it's now coming back to process intelligence. In fact, I've seen a little bit on this coming. I don't see this happening immediately, but maybe in a year or so, I will see transfer learning coming into this. The last but not the least, which I've been always thinking is, so far, process mining has always been structured data. You can see any example, they only talk of structured data, talking of system of records. So why we need to start looking at NLP is if you have used systems like Oracle or Siebel or SAP or what have you, let's say there's a billing hold. The billing hold has occurred because the customer is new. All we do know is that there's a billing hold and so it's on hold. But maybe the customer is very well known to us. The time it is taking is longer. So maybe there's a ticket somewhere saying that we know the customer. If we can read that data using NLP, then we'll understand that so what traditional ERP systems do is they put a hold on it because the customer details are not there. But maybe by looking at the content, maybe there was a ticket or there was some conversation in sales for whatever, where process mining can read those attributes and it says that even though this customer is good, this customer is a long-term prospect and this customer is going to be a game changer for us. NLP can read it and then tell the process engine, let's release the hold. So basically the process mining will send a call to an API or to a bot saying, because this customer is a good customer or I know Jose very well, release it. So this is how process mining is providing, agility. It's just, again, these are one of the many tenets. Then the next thing, what I see is compliance. The big problem for the compliance, especially if you're from the GRC folks, how do we know our process is compliant or not? Right away, by looking at the conformance, whether you're in processes conformance or not. I gave you the example of anomaly detection using this thing. The big thing is in the compliance, what if analysis is coming back. So the same what if analysis, if you take this task, what would happen? What will likely happen? So you can see, if you take a process and see, is this going to conform or not? So at the very beginning itself, how likely is this business process being subject to SOX compliance or not? And if it doesn't comply, using the what if analysis, you can take action. So that's where it's coming in. The next big thing, if you've seen me, is process mining on blockchain. I made it bold. It is happening, guys. Again, taking a little bit aberration. So currently, if you see, for many of us, blockchain means Bitcoin, or maybe to a lesser extent Ethereum. But thanks to off late, the positioning or the noise, which is in fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum are polluting the world. So alternate blockchains like Hyperledger was touted as an enterprise ledger. IBM with much fanfare has created it. The reality is blockchain has still not caught up with the industry because it's expensive. But very soon, or I don't know how many of you are following, alternate blockchains are coming to provide mass affordability. What it would mean is companies will not jump the ship and move to blockchain. Along with the system of records, we will use blockchain. So maybe some part of the royalty payment or token or what have you will go on blockchain, and the order. So the order could be created in an ERP system. but fulfilled and invoiced via the contract on blockchain. What it means is process mining should evolve to not just look at system of records, to look at blockchain. So maybe in the future everything will move to blockchain, but at least in the foreseeable future, I see blockchain being a companion to ERP systems and CRM systems, and process mining has to evolve to provide the process lineage. This is what I am thinking, but future is what, who knows. So and then a little coming back to the efficiencies. Like again, if you come from Six Sigma world, you know what I'm talking about.
Rameshwar, just real quick, we have a couple minutes to questions, just letting you know.
Okay. So I'll quickly run through, guys. Sorry, this slide is busy, but you have more than it. So the goal is this: using process intelligence, you can really provide your what you call is, these are the frameworks. You can actually, if people ask you, where do we start process intelligence? Don't look at automation. Look at your KPIs. Look at your lagging indicators. Look at those numbers and ask your question: why can't we apply? So the beauty is process intelligence has all the tenets. It supports all of your frameworks. In interest of time, I'll run out. And then finally, what I've done is I've taken an example of OKR. And why am I talking this is, if you've seen here in this prior one, I talked of OKR alignment. So OKR is a concept coming from Google. I'll quickly run through. It is making sure there's complete transparency. By using process intelligence with KPIs, you can align to your strategic objectives. So this is an example of, if you're in the supply chain, when you say, I want to improve customer experience, how do I improve customer experience? I increase the shipment, I do this, I increase automation. How can you verify that you're doing or not is by having a real-time visibility. And that real-time visibility is through process intelligence. I'm sure I kind of overwent, but with that, I'll open up for questions, and thank you.
Fantastic, Rameshwar. Such depth of coverage and understanding of this incredible concepts and systems. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing the presentation so that they can see us in the bigger screen. And terrific stuff, really great stuff. We have like 6-7 minutes here, and I want to capture some of these questions coming in from the audience. I want to go back to basics, because there are a lot of very basic questions, and that we want to. Basic is like, with respect to the vision that you're showing here, right? Because you're showing kind of a progressive vision and kind of what's coming up next, and then people are like eager to tap in your wisdom here and find out about that you know so much about this field. Is that if they are starting right now with process mining, with a number about more than half of the participants right now do not have any process mining in place, and they're thinking, what is the right way of starting with process mining before we kind of mature it? What would you suggest, with all the experience you have had in this field, if you'd go back and start over? What is the best approach to get the process mining started in the company?
Sure. I hope nobody takes it offense. Remember, at the very beginning, I said process mining was glamorous or hijacked by the RPA world. If you are coming from the business architects or an architecture, for you, process mining comes as a complement. The best way is, rather than talk it as a technology, the way is talk KPIs. Can we see our quarterly KPIs? What are our lagging indicators? It could be from sales or from finance or channel comms or what have you. Okay, we see this. Let's ask them, what is our quarter on Q KPIs from last quarter to past quarter? Maybe this, how do you plan to systematically attack it? This is a problem. What we have is, we look at the data which is statistical in nature. So we kind of do this KPIs which are not real time. That could be a perfect indicator of introducing process intelligence. Rather than looking at a technology perspective, and mostly automation folks use process intelligence, look at from your lagging indicators and look at from your objectives. If your team has been tasked with improving your goals, let's say they say this year improve your the classic example is in AR is DSO, day spend over. In order to spend, reduce the DSO from 30 days to 15 days. How do you do that? You have to understand your process. There itself is a best example of introduced process mining. Don't use any technology. You can just say, in order to reduce the DSO from 30 to 50, we need to understand the process. The first thing we'll say is, oh, we don't know the process. We don't have an expert. Because people left and it's expensive. Nobody has time. I think these are the standard questions we have. Okay, fair enough. Let's understand the process. We don't need any of your time. Just have a business analyst with you. Test the system, build the process. Remember, the first step in process mining is process as is and showing the bottleneck. When picture speaks 1,000 words, when you talk on a PowerPoint, people may or may not, but when you show the picture real time, people will just sit back and say, oh, you know what? These are all these variations. Now let's talk. Now let's talk business. So talk KPIs, talk pain, don't talk technology. Everybody will align with you.
Great advice. That's good advice. Another question though and theme that has emerged here is that there are many who are doing RPA or experimenting with RPA, and they have some process mining capabilities, but they have not pursued process mining as much. And the question is, if you're starting fresh and you haven't done either RPA or process mining, is there a more logical order that you should do? Like, should you do process mining first and then go into RPA, or should you start with RPA and then go into process mining? Does it make any difference? What is your perspective on that?
People will not like what I say. Kindly do not mix process mining with RPA. Process mining, the definition I've been telling, and I tell from my wholehearted, is process mining is a subset of BPM. It is the whole objective is to do process discovery, accelerated process discovery. We can talk of the other tenets. Why do we want to, like, when you understand the process, there is something called business process reengineering. Maybe if the process is simplified, we don't need RPA. And why are we talking RPA? Why don't we use APIs? If API is not an approach, use RPA. So, no offense, RPA folks have hijacked process mining. Process mining is not, so process mining is the cost, RPA or an API is an effect. What you want to use is something subsequent. RPA is good, no doubt, it is beautiful, but if you want to be the next generation enterprise, if you have heard of Netflix, Uber, they call them as API driven economy, not an RPA driven economy. If you want to be flexible, now your company's culture and appetite changes, look from an API, then move to RPA. Even we use API and RPA, but don't brand process mining with RPA. There is nothing. So process discovery is the key. Then talk of what is the effect. You use whatever technology, that's a subsequent thing, but use process mining for process discovery. How well do we understand the process? How bad is the process? Then talk of automation. If you apply automation, there is this, I've heard this and I get offended, is we used to call data-driven culture, then we said cloud-first culture. Now it is automation-first culture. Guys, you need to think of user-first. Gen Z GameStop is telling you, stop this technology approach. If we are also driven or data-driven, people-driven, cloud-driven, why are we still driving? We should have already been driven by now, right? What happened to the data-driven culture? What happened to the cloud culture? These are all the tenets to evolve. But listen to what, I hope we can say people-driven or user-driven, user experience-driven. I don't know if that's possible. If we start thinking in those mindsets, then we come from a business capability and then come to technology. Unfortunately, we are the other way. But that's my view, my 2 cents.
Very good. And Rameshwar, how do people get in touch with you? Those who want to ask additional questions, participate in some of the exciting things that you're doing with the automation meetups. What is the best way of being in touch with you?
On LinkedIn, and just Google me. You'll find a ton of articles.
Terrific. Rameshwar, thank you so much for taking the time to sharing your expertise today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rameshwar Balanagu, who is the head of digital automation enterprise architecture at AVAYA, and sharing his expertise with all of us today, his deep expertise and view of the future. Rameshwar, I'm going to ask you to toggle your camera off at this time, and I'll remind everyone that we're going to be closing this session, opening back up at the top of the hour, and we're going to move from Dallas, Texas to Aberdeen, Scotland. Very excited about our next speaker, who is going to talk about adapting to support team excellence in a virtual workplace. and responding to the needs of an industry in transition. So we're gonna have Tim Wiggum with us. Tim is the head of performance at Exceed, and he's going to talk about the applications of technology as we have significantly shifted into, of course, remote and virtual collaboration. And he's going to share some best practices for virtual collaboration with us. How do we achieve continuous process improvement when there's the only certainty that we have is of change, and then we are lived in this dislocated world for some time. So I hope to see you back at the top of the hour with Tim Wiggum. So bye for now.